Welcome back to the Herbalist Hour. Today I'm very excited to have on Lindsey Feldpausch. Welcome to the show, Lindsey.
Thank you for having me, Mason. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Welcome to the Herbalist Hour. This is where community gather, merging the power of people and the flowers, the sweet and the bitter to the salty, the sour. Umami, it's time for the Herbalist Hour.
Same. And, when we originally set up this interview, you were just on the Mountain Rose Herbs Herbal Radio podcast, so I hear, and you're kind of delving into this whole holistic or holism in the herbal field, herbalism, and you kind of wanted to switch directions. What did you speak about on Herbal Radio?
We had a lovely interview with Jessica over Herbal Radio. She was filling in for Tommy Navarre, who had to step out at the time and got to do her first podcast with us, which was so much fun. And I had a couple of my colleagues joining me. So we talked about holistic practice of herbalism in the clinical sphere.
Hmm.
And yeah, today I wanted to talk about like a holistic perspective of herbal education because yeah, I think that there's so much to say there. And all of these topics are kind of revolving around this holistic, holism aspect because our 2026 Virtual Herbalism Conference, which is happening over at the Herbal Academy, we're developing and actually open for registration right now. The theme this year is wholeness. So it's kind of
Mm.
that idea of bringing everything together in this really beautiful way. So yeah, today we're here to talk about holism and herbal education.
I love this topic too because I feel like I get a lot of questions around this. And someone there? Come in. Oh, sorry, Lindsay. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, oh, it's Rosalee.
What's up?
Hey, Ros
Lindsay, I'm
Ros
your friend.
Wait, how
Hello.
funny.
Hi.
Hello.
Rosalie de la Forêt is here. That's so cool.
Oh,
I had
fun.
no idea you were in town.
Yeah, I just thought I'd drop by the office and
No,
yeah, here we are.
sweet.
What
Well,
are you kids up to?
she's on the she's on the Herbalist Hour. I'm
Oh,
interviewing
shit.
her. Yeah, so we're
Oh,
recording right now. But
oh.
why don't you
Can
pull
I
up?
crash?
Yeah, pull up a chair. Okay, cool. Sweet. Well, I wrote a bunch of these questions out, but I guess, yeah, Rosalie could help me interview Lindsay here, and that'll be a lot of fun.
I've been on a
And
podcast
Rosalie can
before.
help me. You've done this before.
Yeah, so Rosalie's got her own podcast as well, but yeah, so we're talking holistic approach to herbal education. So, yeah, if you want to join in, that'd be awesome. So,
Sweet.
when you think about wholeness and herbal education, what does that mean to you personally? Just to kind of kick things off, you know? We'll get into more of the nitty-gritty later.
Such a fascinating question, Mason. When I started thinking about like what does it actually mean to me, I really went back to the stories of our elders. Like you all know, right? Like we've talked to Rosemary Gladstar and David Winston, and we've heard the stories of like what herbal education was like back in the day, right? And this
Mm,
is like the 60s and the 70s and the 80s when there was literally like not a single herb school out there. And these people were seeking out education in any sphere that they could find it, right? We're like, oh, there were two herb books that they could reach for to learn from. And then they're finding these like herbalists, out in the woods somewhere to like study from that were like unknown. There was no internet. Everything was really hard fought, right? And so today we live in this world where herbal education is everywhere, right? Like you could
Mhm.
practically throw a stone and hit an herb school, which I don't think is
mm,
a bad thing. I actually think it's wonderful because as an herbalist and a plant lover, like I want this field to shine everywhere, right? But I also think that that holistic approach, is when I think about the elders, it's like, oh, well, where were they getting their information, right? And they were curating it any place that they could find it. And today we have specialized schools. We have schools that are just for this or just for that, or programs that are developed for individualized topics. And yeah, I think that this is really beautiful because not only can we be generalized in our studies, like we can learn all the topics that make a good herbalist, but we also can dive deeper into a specialization. Like, oh, if you want to choose a path within which you will dive into, you get to really choose that path and choose the educational programming that you're going to work with. So yeah, I think that holism and herbal practice to me is a reflection of all of the aspects of our field that make a good herbalist, which is so much, right? Like we can think about the foundation of herbal practice of just knowing plants, right? And how do we know plants? Like we build our materia medicas, and that's not just knowing how to use a plant or how it works in the body, right? There's botany, there's growing the plant, there's the energetics and the herbal actions. And that's just one small aspect of herbal practice or herbal education. There's so much more to be said for what we need to, in my opinion, be studying to be well-rounded herbalists. I mean, there's medicine making, and medicine making allows us to make effective herbal products, but we also need to know phytochemistry to really be able to dive into what we're looking for solubility and for the extraction aspects. What about anatomy and physiology and pathophysiology, right? And like how herbs are impacting the body and how the body is impacting those herbs when you take them in. These are just a few categories that make like a well-rounded herbalist. So when we're talking about holism and herbal practice, I really do believe that we have to be able to have a level of mastery over all of those subjects to be really a good herbalist. And that doesn't mean that you have to specialize in each of those. It just means that you have to be confident in your knowledge base to curate medicine for products, or to be able to utilize an herb effectively, or to work with a client and in a consultation to address the conditions or issues they have that they want support from plants with. And yeah, what do you all think? What do you think that holism is an herbal education?
Well, you said it so beautifully, Lindsay, especially because there are so many different ways of being an herbalist, and I definitely subscribe that there's no one way. However, I do think that if we rely solely on herbalism and in like a supplement aisle, and just going to a supplement aisle, buying products, taking them home, taking them like that is an herbalist to some degree, or relying on plants for medicine. But then we miss out on so much of the beauty and the joy and the wonder, because we're missing things like connection to the plants, and we're missing even basic botany, of understanding the different plant structures, and like I love the empowerment that comes with making herbal remedies. That is just not quite the same feeling as like handing over a few bucks for some products. So I love the way you said it, of just it's this whole encompassing. And we often find that people, like, maybe medicine making isn't like their one true passion, but like having those basic skills to be able to do it somewhat is a very good thing. Maybe like for me, like I think phytochemistry is interesting, but it's not my passion. And so I know the basics that's needed so I can make remedies, but I'm not like doing like full deep, like at night when I go to bed, I'm not like opening up a phytochem book like excitedly, and that's okay. It's all right.
Okay.
Yeah. You have thoughts on that, Mason?
Well, I'm just excited to get further into the interview because I'm really, what's that?
I want to ask the next question though.
No, I know.
Okay.
I'm not going to answer. Well, it's just for my 2 cents. I'm excited to get further into the episode just to talk about like the difference between, say, like niching down as an herbalist and really going hyper focused on one specific area versus like this broad spectrum of herbal education. So, but yeah, nice segue.
Yeah, that's nice. We're great co-hosts.
You guys should start your own podcast.
Yeah, we might. Oh, folk methodology.
Oh.
Yeah, cool.
So I think that like you could take a step back though and say like really like what are the like what makes an herbalist, right? Is that really at the crux of this conversation? Like if you are in herbal education, like what is the goal as a person who desires to be an herbalist, or like what is the definition of an herbalist? I really feel like there is such a wide spectrum. Like an herbalist can just be somebody who is learning a few plants to help their families, right? In times of need, or just themselves. And like having that connection or the love for the plants and the desire to like garner a relationship with them, I don't think that those people aren't herbalists, right? Like I think they are. And
Yeah.
then there's this whole wide spectrum of like what is an herbalist and how far does it go to like the herbalists, you know? And I think that herbal education definitely can be crafted to cultivate the herbalist that you want to be.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
Well, I loved what you were saying about how, like our herbal elders, they were just like scrapping for herbal information wherever they could get it, right? So they're just wherever they found it, they went for it because that's just what it was. And now we live in this totally different era where we are, you can get the algorithms on your social media to just be like straight up herbs. You got YouTube, you've got AI now. There's so many different ways, not to mention, herbal schools, herbal books, herbal podcasts.
Yeah.
So my question for you, Lindsay, is how do you coach people to discern where their herbal information is coming from amidst all of this like cacophony of
Nice word.
herbal education that's coming in?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you really started off like my thought process on that for sure, because we do live in this different era, right? So I think that there's so much information out there that isn't backed by actual experience, which is a differentiation for a lot of reasons, right? So if you are looking at an herb book that was written by ChatGPT, like obviously ChatGPT has never been in a clinical consultation with a client. Like that is just and it's rampant, right? Like we know this. We know like I feel myself being so critical now of every herb book. Like that I won't name the book, but there was a book recently that I was like, is that real? I've never heard that person's name. So could it be like a real herbalist? If they've not come across my path in the 15 years that I've been doing this. And it's like, oh, yes, they actually were real. I'm like, okay. But like my inherent like knee-jerk reaction is to question whether that book was real or not, because I am certainly only trusting the people that I know or have like a reputation within the herbal field. And I think that that's part of what we have to do now, right? So we either have to look towards people who are actual experts in the field, like or schools that are experts, right? And expert's kind of an interesting title, but I think that the expert to me means that there's actual direct experience, right? There are people talking from a place of knowledge that they have gathered through decades of experiential practice. And that's not just the clinical part, that's working with the plants directly too, right? Like if you're Googling answers and getting, these AI summaries and taking that as like your herbal education, like that's obviously not the right way. So to give a little more thought to the like how do you then discern? And again, I think it comes from making sure that the people that you're either looking to study with or read their work or even do say like a consultation with, like doing the research on your own to dig in. I don't know, you guys have probably done this, but I've definitely gone down the rabbit hole where it's like, oh, well, check out this book, look at the author, and then try to find the author elsewhere, right? And if you're looking at a book and going like, oh, is this a book about herbal synergies a real person or is it just AI? If the author does not have their name many other places within the field, like I wouldn't trust that book at all. And same goes for, any online herbal education program. Like if they are um a place that's a dead end at that school or that website and you don't find any more information elsewhere, I definitely wouldn't be trusting it. And we do have resources like Herb Rally where they're listing, events, or AHG has a whole school registered list that you can look towards for school, but really looking towards like the experienced folks, like who have been in the field for a long time, who've been doing the work, and go from there. So do your research and find the people that are experienced in the field.
Just a quick break from the show to let you know about our herbal monographs page. So if you go to herbrally.com/monographs, you're going to see all sorts of different plant monographs. And basically what a monograph is, if you don't already know, you probably do, but it's a lengthy, well-written description of what a plant is. You're going to learn about its range, its Latin name, its common names, medicinal uses, personal stories a lot of times, because we have a wide variety of herbalists talking about these plants. So if you want to learn about a specific plant, I definitely recommend you go to herbrally.com/monographs, check them out. Some of them are even 20 pages long, some of them are 5 pages long, but they're really unique, and I highly recommend you check it out. Thanks so much, and now back to the show. Yeah, I just wanted to shout out Leanne Moshe. She's a registered herbalist. She wrote the Herbal Fertility Handbook. Do you know Leanne, Lindsay?
Yeah. We had her on for a masterclass through the herbarium at the Herbal Academy.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, she taught about fertility. She was wonderful. And then at IHS,
Right.
hung
Yeah,
out
I
there.
just wanted to shout her out because she was recently on the Herb Rally podcast and did a little video for us. And she was telling me after the show that so this is the book she wrote, but then there's a book she found on Amazon, I think with virtually the same title. And she was like, "Who wrote this book?" And then she discovered it was written by AI. And so she's like, "I have to buy it. I don't want to support them, but I have to see what is in this AI book." And she kind of flipped through it for me, and it was complete garbage. I guess I could say garbage since it was written by AI. I'm not hurting anyone's feelings here. But they said it was written in the style of Simon Mills, which I thought was hilarious. And then you open it up, and well, this is Leanne's book, so it looks nice and professional and obviously well researched and well done. But the AI book was just like these tiny little pages with giant font and just like these run-on sentences, and I'm like, they didn't even put any effort into it. But apparently, they're still selling these books, so it's definitely. I like all your points about discernment based on herbalist reputation.
Yeah, I think, there's so many places to get knowledge from, and we talk about this in herbalism, right? Like there's the scientific realm where we're really gaining information from what's happening in clinical trials or in the labs and garnering information from there. And there is traditional practices, right? Like there is so much to be learned from, in which now with the internet and like archive.org, like we have so much access to the written material that came before us to really look. And I love reading old herbals. I taught a class for the AHT on cordials this past holiday season, and I had such a fun time diving into all the herbals from the 17th, 18th century, even earlier, right? Like I was going back to Avicenna and looking at like what were cordials then? What did that term mean? And if cordial had not been developed yet in that era, like what did they call, extracts where they were, infusing herbs and alcohol and adding a sweetener, or in that case, a lot of times because distilled alcohol didn't come into popularity really early on, and like when I'm talking about Avicenna, the wine was the vessel for extraction, right? So looking at like what the practice looked like 1,000 years ago for cordials, and then the development of the term cordials and the recipes that were coming out with cordials, and like in the Galactic era, like so many different recipes from the cordials period were super medicinal, right? Like they're using herbs like opium poppy in their cordials, which isn't what we would think about a cordial today. And anyways, like the joy that is found in like that research of like reaching your hand back into history and being like, what did this practice look like back then, and bringing it into modern day, and having access to that like at the tip of our fingers. Like you can search any old herbal and find a downloadable copy like so easily. So we have modern science, we have these traditions and to the traditional writings of the herbalists before us, and then we have our own direct experience, which is huge. And I'm sure we'll talk about that because that is one of the most important things, I think, in my opinion, and probably your guys' too, of like really being a holistic herbalist in your personal education.
Mm. And cordials are one of your fortes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I know from experience. Did you have any
Yeah.
follow-up on that, or?
Lots of good times hanging
Yeah.
around at the booth, like at Great Lakes Herb Fair. That's kind of like what I do is go to Great Lakes so I can hang out with Lindsay
Yeah.
at her booth, um, enjoying her incredible expertise in formulation.
Oh, thanks, Rosalee. Yeah, it's such a joy. I mean, that's why I love making products, right? It's like the connection not
Mm.
only to the plants and like cultivating these beautiful formulations, but then getting to give them to my favorite people for sharing.
So, from a wholeness perspective, and maybe the beginner herbalist, do you have any recommendations on how someone can decide on whether to be a generalist or more go focused on like a niche?
Yeah. Well, I think it all starts with plants, right? Like
Always come back to the plants.
you gotta be a generalist there first. Like you can't, like that is the crux, right? Like plants are what make us herbalists.
Mm.
And so yeah, I think that like I think we can develop our pathways and like develop our specializations, but really it all starts with learning from the plants themselves. I don't know about you guys. I don't know that I've heard. I think Rosalie, I think I know your origin story, but my origin story was like I started gardening in a punk house in Detroit, like
Mm.
uh growing kale for the first time and being like, oh, this is kale. And I had no idea. And then being like so interested in the plants that we were cultivating for food that I was like, well, what are these other plants that I'm like weeding out? Like what if these plants are so great, what about these? And so I really think that herbalism starts, like the path to herbalism starts with that calling from the plants themselves and in whatever way, whether it's through your own, um, maybe an illness or a health condition that you need help with, or if it is, from growing up around nature and having parents who actually facilitated that connection for you, or if it's somebody like me who grew up in the suburbs and you're like, oh, wait, plants are fascinating, and then the green wall falls. So I think really recognizing that starting the pathway to being an herbalist or to, really exploring herbal education is like holding tight to that connection to plants and the relationships that you build with them as the most important part. Like it does not matter. Nothing else matters. If that isn't really there, like then I feel like there's an emptiness to the practice of herbalism. And yeah, so though we know that there are so many ways to be an herbalist, I think that, I very quickly jumped into the clinical herbalism sphere, not even really purposefully. Like I just wanted to study herbalism and I got connected with Thomas Easley by a mutual friend who was like, oh yeah, you can move down to Alabama and he'll train you. And it was super fascinating because Thomas was very into the clinical side. So I spent 10 years really deep into the clinical side of herbalism, and that was fantastic. Like it was really well suited to me, and I loved it. But I felt like at some points you lost the connection to the plants because it was all about like the brain stuff. And yeah, so clinical herbalism is huge in if you want to be helping people directly, like working directly with clients to support them. If you want to be working directly with plants and you love gardening, like being an herb cultivator might be the path for you, right? Or if you love formulating and creating products, that might be the path for you. But the reality is, and what I've always told my students, is that most of the time you have to be everything. Like you have to be all of those things. Like if you're a clinical herbalist, you have to be creating your own products because you need them to give to the clients. If you are a clinical herbalist, you probably need to be teaching classes too, because that's where you're going to get your name out there. You're probably going to need to be at the market selling your products. I mean, really, there is a lot to be said for like the fact that we wear a lot of hats. Like we all say this, we know it to be true. So I think that you can be a generalist with all of those aspects tying into your main pathway. But also, recognizing that you need to find your passion. Like what drives you in the herbal sphere? Like what do you want to be doing day in and day out with your practice of plants?
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I found like in my own journey with that, like I thought I would be a medicine maker and like sell products. And I tried that and I really like failed hard at that. But that's the thing with herbalism, like you get to try all these different avenues and just see, even like yourself, you dived into clinical herbalism super deep and then your path is ever evolving. We never get bored with the herbs.
No.
They keep opening up different pathways for us.
Yeah, and I also think that as we like navigate the different roads you can take as an herbalist, like you gain skills and then you move on to the next thing. And now you have that skill, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's interesting now, like I am still seeing clients, but very, very little comparatively to what I have done historically, right? So now it's like I'll do a consultation or two on one or two on the weekends, and it's mostly in my community, like trying to be a support, right? So like being of service to the people in my community in that way. So opening myself up to that. But that's not my main thing anymore at all. And really, I am in the herbal education field, which I have been for 15 years. But like that is mainly what I do and where I spend the majority of my time. But even in that, right, like we are utilizing all of those muscles as well. Like yesterday, I was creating or I was reviewing a class with like a chemistry lens on like lipids in like healthy lipids in both diet and then in plants. And today, working on this conference and we're developing a course that I'm writing a lesson for and like doing all the research for this course, which I won't mention yet. But yeah, anyway, so we're always just like pulling in the knowledge from the sources that we've gained or the experience we've had to fulfill where we're at. And that's life, right? Like, I feel like that's life. Like you're just continuously learning lessons to get you to where you are today and utilize those.
Well, Lindsay, when you're talking about your origin story, being in Detroit, you're gardening, you're like learning about kale, love that. And then you're like starting to have like growing awareness of plants and then herbs. Like just hearing that little snippet, like it just brings me back and just like those beginning stages of getting caught by the herbal bug. And how exhilarating and exciting it can be, and how people often in that stage like they want to learn all of the plants now, and which is I get it 100%. I'm wondering if you would speak to that of just like there's different pathways, like some people do just like they want to learn all the plants at once versus like learning a few plants at a time, and I'm wondering if you just like talk about those different pathways.
Yeah. So I remember when I was first starting off, one of my first herb books was Matthew Wood's, I think it was called Seven Herbs. And I still remember like the first passage that he wrote was like, if you like truly know one herb, like you can use that herb successfully and you are an herbalist. And so I don't think like in this country, we think quantity over quality a lot of the times, right? But I think that the quality of relationship that you have with a handful of herbs is so much more valuable than having 100 herbs that you know the names of and think you can use, but are just really listing their actions or something. And how do we get there, right? Like Rosalee, I know we both love this topic so much, but the idea that, we develop the relationships with plants through our direct experience with them. So using our organoleptic senses, smelling and touching and tasting plants. And I spent 5 years at the eclectic school doing blind tea tasting. So 4 days a week, I would do a tea tasting with our clinical training intensive students. And so I would come in with a tea and we would go through the whole process of tea tasting, which, we all have our different versions of, but, we would smell the tea. We would look at the tea. We would look at it and like, what color is it? And like, what's, the textures in the tea? Like, is there oily nature floating on top, or is it like a little creamy? Is, the color, I mean, alone tells you a lot. And you smell it and, you experience the aroma of the plant. And what does that feel like in your body? What does that remind you of? And then you're tasting it and you're, sitting with the plant's impact on your body through that taste. You're asking the questions of like, what does it taste like? Is it bitter? Is it salty? Is it sour? And these are all clues. These are all telling us things about the plant. And the reason that we did it blind is because when you're trying to name something, right? Or when you have the name of something, like if you know what the tea is that you're drinking, then you are putting your rational brain to work. You're saying, oh, well, I know that nettle is good for this because of this and da 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 da, da, and there's all the things that I know in my brain. But what we're trying to do is know it in your body. And so, and of course, like we're still getting clues and we're using our brain to discern through those clues, like what this plant is like in its nature. And I just think that this is so understated, even though we all state it. It is so much a part of like the development of relating to plants. And so it doesn't have to be blind, but taking an herb that you're interested in, so you want to learn more about shatavari, which is an herb I love. Yeah, like make a cup of tea or a decoction with shatavari and, smell it and sip it and taste it and ask yourself, like, how does it feel in my body? And what is this doing for me? And though we're all different, right? We all have different constitutions and our tissues live in different states and our energetic predispositions, but you're never wrong, right? If you say that shatavari feels like this to me, like that's never wrong because that is your direct experience with that plant. And it helps you to build confidence in that the plant itself. And then if you can just continue building those relationships, like next thing you know, you will have a large materia medica. But if you can confidently use a dozen herbs that you have direct relationship with, then I think that you're in good shape, and continuing to build from there. But yeah, so I would say quality over quantity.
I like that you brought up like how does it feel in your body and yourself because the other day we were having a nettle infusion and I was like I can't drink it right now if it's too late and I did put it out there on social media before. I was like, do any of you experience this as well? Like when I drink nettle infusion too late, it like keeps me up. I don't like it affects my sleep. And sure enough, some people agreed with me on that, which I was kind of surprised by. But so yeah, I just really like your emphasis on that. Did you have anything to add to that?
No, that was a good example though.
Yeah.
Because I could drink it late just fine.
Yeah, no problem.
No problem.
Yeah.
But what's good for me about that is like to know that that exists for somebody. So I'm not like, there's just that awareness of that, of like recognizing like plants are different for everyone. And you never want to just take on your own thing and then like disregard anyone else's. Because I believe you.
Yeah, I hope so. As an educator and clinical herbalist, like is that something where you'd actually inform your students or clients about, say specifically for nettle? We'd be like, don't drink it late at night, it might keep you up, or is that just like a trial and error thing?
I would not. That would not be a contraindication for me at all. And it's funny.
You're
Mason,
in
I'm
like
like, is it the
I guess so.
diuretic?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I was like, is it the diuretic nature, Mason?
Oh no, that's not it. I just find it stimulating. I don't know. It's interesting, but yeah, so many plants to know, so much information to know. For the beginner herbalist out there, do you have any advice for the beginner herbalist who's like feeling overwhelmed by all the information out there, or maybe speak to feeling like behind on your herbal studies? I feel like this is like a beginner herbalist issue because I remember when I first got really into herbs, I was like, I want to know it all. and like you're just like, I started late. I should have known all this stuff already. I remember when I was taking Columbines, I swear everyone in my class was able to point out all the plants and know what they were. And I was like, oh man, oh shucks, but so yeah, do you have any advice for information overload and feeling behind in their studies?
Oh my gosh, you guys. I think like it's not just for beginners though, right? Like I
True.
feel like there's just so much information out there. Like it's so easy to feel overloaded. And I think that for me, it's like I want it all. Like that's the problem, right? Like I do want it all where it's like, oh, if I'm gonna research something, like I want to research it like through and through. And yeah, I think that my biggest advice would truly just be like you just all need to enjoy the journey a little bit more.
Here, here.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's what it's all about. It's not like the end goal is not to be like
The best
the
herbalist.
best herbalist ever. I mean, though, is it David Winston would disagree. His who wants to be a good herbalist? Wrong answer. You want to be the best herbalist. No, I think that like we do, like we want to be good herbalists, but like also like I want to enjoy the process of everything that I'm coming in contact with. And that's so missing in this like in our society of like constant information overload. And I think that nature helps us do this, right? Like going out into the woods and taking a walk and like remember like why we are herbalists and why we're studying herbalism. Like this is yeah, a really good connection point back to like the plants and enjoying the journey. But yeah, feeling overwhelmed is huge, guys. I remember the first week, so like I moved down to Alabama, like sight unseen. And the
Wow.
first or second weekend I was there, we went to a weekend conference with Matthew Wood. And um I was so confused. The whole like I'd been self-studying at this point, like Botany in a Day was like this book that I had like just really like poured through. And I had Matthew's Traditions of Western Herbalism at that point, which it just was all so foreign. Like all of the terminology, the things that these people were talking about that was just so second nature to them, right? These terms that they're throwing around. And I was just so confused. I was so lost and I was just like, what am I doing? And like now here I am 15 years later, like fully fluent, right? It's just a process and it's a journey. And even if you feel like that right now, if you feel overwhelmed or in over your head or even behind, like it's not always going to feel like that. And just try to find the joy in working with plants because how lucky are all of us to be on this, plant path together.
Yeah. Yeah, the joy of the process is fun. Like there is that like, oh, I want to do it all, but yeah, just take it a step at a time, like you said, enjoy the process.
Yeah.
Lindsay, you've shared like we learn from the plants. We have all these different ways we can learn from people with experience. I'm curious, is there a non-herbal teacher that has influenced your own herbal path?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I think that if I think back to before I was an herbalist, which I had a ton of really great teachers in my college experience. And so I have a degree in journalism and I have a yeah, photojournalism is what I was before I was an herbalist.
Oh,
And journalism and the teachers that I worked with in that field like really gave me so much that have built into my career, not just like the writing skills and the editing skills that I use on a daily basis, but the critical thinking lens that you put on. I would also say the observation lens. So I remember one of my teachers, Ben Burns, who was this like iconic Detroit journalist. I mean, he was like, not only was he like towering in height, being like almost 7 feet, but he was like towering in reputation.
hmm.
And one of the pop quizzes that he gave us in class was, what was I wearing yesterday? And he wanted you to like describe his tie and the color of his shirt and his shoes. And I remember like one, I could like fully recall an image of him and like relate this information back next class, but it was like such a key moment of teaching, of like like being in observation, like watching the world around you and taking things in. And yeah, I think that we have so much to learn from observing the natural world and from observing the plants that we work with and the people that we study with or learn from. Yeah, and yeah, so I would say observation and critical thinking were probably those skills that I learned from those teachers that I really cherish today.
That's cool. Great answer, Lindsey.
Do you think it's important for herbalists to study with multiple teachers and multiple traditions versus sticking with one lineage or school?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Don't you guys?
100%. Yeah, that's why I feel so honored and rewarded to get to do this work because I get to promote all the amazing herbalists out there. There's so many
Yeah.
incredible herbalists. And myself, I've taken a couple apprenticeships. Granted, they were both pretty much in the same like Western herbalism realm, but yeah. So I don't know if
Yeah.
you have anything to add
When
to
I
that.
was, yeah, I did the clinical side, but when I think about my second like core teacher in my life was Jim McDonald, right?
Mm.
And like I went from this very clinical heavy experience to the energetic model that Jim presented. And if we're talking about holism and herbal education, like that really made me such a more well-rounded herbalist. And yeah, I mean, shout out to Jim and his incredible teachings and his Lindera program which is currently registering, I do believe.
Herbcraft.org.
He's all
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
yeah.
He's
We'll
okay.
we'll keep him.
I'll keep them.
Yeah, so I think that having so many, different teachers is huge. I mean, uh, I would caution against herb schools where there's one person who is the expert, right? Like you want to have a well-rounded approach, then you want to have multiple voices. So I would say that not that like one person herb schools are bad, but like you don't want to just have a one person who is like sitting on a pedestal giving you all of the information. You want to gather information from as many different sources as you can. I would say many different traditions as well, though I have really mostly spent all of my time in the Western, traditional Western herbalism realm. I know, Rosalee, you do a little more TCM, right?
Yeah, yeah, that was my initial entryway was with the tiaras, and they spend most of the time in TCM. And I'm actually in David Winston's school right now, which is also very TCM heavy based too.
Yeah, yeah. So I feel like that's actually, I was lamenting just recently, being like, it's kind of like a point of embarrassment for me where I'm like, I don't know TCM or Ayurveda very well at all. But I do feel like I have a good grasp on the system within which I do work. And yeah, get as many voices as you can. And as we talked about earlier, right? Like there's so much access to information now. So like find the podcasts you love, like your guys's.
Herbs with
Um,
Rosalie podcast.
Herb Rally.
yeah, I know. Last time I saw Rosalie, the first thing I said was like, I was listening to you on the way here. Yeah, I mean, it's so great to be able to just press a button on my phone and have Rosalie pop in with like these incredible herbalists and you too, Mason, to
Oh,
share
thanks.
so much, yeah, so much information to be had and garnered from various sources. So yeah, find your people, learn from as many as you can, and yeah, try to be well-rounded in your approaches as well.
I think you've kind of touched on this, Lindsay,
Yeah.
but there is that balance between like finding your little niche and then like exploring things broadly. And I'm just kind of curious about that a bit. I don't know, like when I hear you say like you've really dialed in on Western herbalism, like how many of us will ever like truly understand TCM? Like it's such a like vast thing, and I wasn't born in China, and wasn't raised in that culture, and
Mm.
so yeah, I feel like there's pros and cons there, but I'm just kind of wondering, like, do you have any advice for someone even maybe who's just like, where is my niche? Where am I gonna dive in deep? How do you even find that?
I mean, I think it just comes down to like that like sparkly feeling inside. Like what
Mm.
makes you shine? What makes you feel like excited and passionate? Like where does your passion come? But I think it's also hard too because it's like, well, where like are we trying to like be like making our living in herbalism versus like a side gig, right? Because it's
Yeah.
like then it's harder. If you're in herbal education and you're wondering how to find your path, like truly follow your passion, like figure out what, and continue exploring and yeah. And then also like the next step would then be, can you figure out how to make money and like make a living from it? But yeah, that's a whole different conversation. So yeah, that's my thoughts. Do you guys have any?
Kind of shared mine. Do you want to?
Um, yeah, I think a lot of the stuff that we're talking about is analogous to the rest of life. Who was I interviewing? Is her name Julia Graves or Yulia Graves?
Julia Graves.
Yulia Graves. Yeah, I was interviewing Yulia, and we kind of compared this to, it might have been a kind of a different topic, but as far as like okay, so first, back in the day, I was raised in an atheist home, right? And I was always a very spiritual person, and I was like trying to find my path in spirituality. So I like dabbled in all these different religions and spiritual beliefs, and I always felt like I was kind of going very shallow with it. But I want like a deeper connection to the, God or the higher power or whatever, and or whatever. I'm so nonchalant about it. But and and Yulia's advice was just pick one lane and go deep, because that's how that's going to be most effective for you, as far as a relationship with a higher power. And I really like that. And in hindsight, it seems incredibly obvious to me now. So I think that could translate over to herbalism as well. Go deep, maybe dabble a little bit on the sides, just out of curiosity or if your passion calls you that way. But I think overall, if you're trying to become, the best herbalist you could be, or however you want to put it, yeah, sticking with one lane and just going deep. Does that make sense?
Following the sparkles.
Yeah, following the sparkles. I like that. I say following the golden thread, which I got from Stephen Buhner, but yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, you definitely do have to explore before I would be like, all right, go all in, at least a little bit. Though
That's a great point, Lindsay. I really like that. That's true. Yeah, you start broad and then narrow in. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh, no, all good. Yeah, I mean, it's really, yeah, it's finding the joy and the passion. And I think it's also interesting too. I agree with you when you said that it's like really a bigger like microcosm of the macrocosm of life, where it's just like trying, we're all like, sometimes it's hard. It's hard to feel like when you're like, oh, I don't know about y'all, but like I went through like 4 different planners this 2026 trying to find the perfect one. And like, like some of them just ask these like crazy deep questions about like, what do you want? It's like, I don't know the answer. Like it's so hard to find the answers to some of these things. And when you look so hard, like when you're seeking so hard, like you're trying, you're holding that like tension almost to like try to find the answer to the thing. And I almost think that like releasing the tension around it and just like allowing like life and flow to happen can be really supportive.
I love that.
That's amazing.
Makes me think like I listened to a lot of music when I was younger, but the second I heard Tori Amos, I knew like it was it for me, and
You had to bring Tori into the show.
over 30 years later, she and I are super tight still. So like sometimes you just know when you know.
But now you're dabbling in other genres.
You have broadened my horizon a little bit. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, I think that herbs can be really helpful there too, right? To like allow us to enter into those states where it's like, releasing the tension of life and there's so many fantastic nervines for each of our individual indications for whatever we need. But yeah, to like really release the tension that we hold around surrounding life and allowing us to enjoy it all a little bit more. So
Yeah,
what you
that was
guys
beautiful. I thought you were going to follow up with more Tory stuff, so I'm like kind of disappointed, but that was really nice.
Yeah,
I guess we should bring it back to the herbs.
That'd be ideal. Tory rally.
That's our new podcast.
Okay, yeah. No, thank you. Do you listen to Tori, Lindsay? Is this all nonsense to you?
No, no, actually, I did ask Rosalee. I was like, okay, Rosalee, like if I wanted to, where would I start? And she was like, at the beginning, which is obviously also great life advice. Start at the beginning. Yeah. No, I've never did the Tory.
All right, next time we hang out, we'll get that figured out, Lindsay.
Road trip, the whole.
Oh, now we're talking.
Speaking of life advice, do you have any advice that you would give your younger self as an herbalist?
Yeah. So it's really interesting because I mean, we all work in herbalism, right? Like this is our life's work. And honestly, truly so honored to be an herbalist in every aspect of my day. But working at the computer, working for Herbal Academy, which is an online school, we are all online, so at the computer all day, and really looking in the past at my other positions, it's been so much at the computer or at the desk or teaching and, less in nature. So I actually had to like have a moment um, with myself, like probably like 5 years ago, where I was just like, you need to go back to the plants. Like you need to go back to the original source. Like, and so it would be to spend more time in nature, like to spend more time with the plants in nature. And so I don't mean like, obviously we're drinking tea like all the time or what have you. Like I take tinctures constantly, right? But like, so I'm with the plants, like,
Yeah.
but like go be with it. Like make sure that you prioritize that like physical connection with the plants because it's really easy to get lost in the other spaces in which we cultivate our herbal sides.
Great answer.
Yeah, it's great.
What about you
Like,
guys? I want to hear.
wow, she's really turned the tables a
I
lot.
I love that in a guest, by
Yeah,
the way.
yeah, it's really nice.
Lindsay's got to be on Herbalist After Hours because
Yeah,
that's what we want.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, she could bring the cordials. Those are
Yeah.
good.
Oh, now we're talking.
Yeah, we
I've
actually
got
had chamomile elixir from Lindsay at Erica's.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
So that made the show.
and she had a guest question.
Oh,
Right,
yeah,
so
that's right.
yeah,
That's what, so I guess she was on the show.
yeah, yeah.
Do you sell your cordials online? I think I asked you last time you were on the show. No, just at the events. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I actually opened a little baby shop. It's tiny, which I don't
Nice.
actually sell my cordials there, but in town, yeah, it's wonderfully easy because it is part of a bigger shop in our town.
Cool.
And I just have their like back room, which opens up to our town's farmers market. So I marketed for years in my town, and then they invited me in. And so basically, the door that opens, like the building closest to our farmers market, the door that opens, I just have this little space, and I got to curate it, design it. It looks so cute in there, and I have my products, but they run the retail side, so like I don't have to work retail at all. So yeah, that's really exciting, and it allows me to keep connecting with like the maker side of me, which is so huge for like my nourishment and sell my products. So
Do you sell your curry powder there?
I do sell my golden
I,
spice there.
I would like to point out I literally buy that by the pound and I just ran out, so I'll be placing
Oh,
another order.
I
But
can
this
make
is
a
like
note
the stuff,
here.
like the stuff. Yeah,
Rosalee. Get some
amazing.
golden spice.
Taking notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I derailed that last question. Were you gonna chime in on that early advice or?
Early advice. That's such a great question. Yeah. Gosh, I don't even know. I love to like enjoy the ride. I think I
Yeah,
like to
that's
think
what I
I
was gonna
have
go.
enjoyed the ride,
Yeah.
but we could always enjoy it more,
Yeah.
perhaps. Yeah.
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 The emphasis on it's not about the destination, it's the journey.
That's okay.
That
I want to
idiom.
take that. That's what I said.
I also like your point about spending more time in nature. I'm a big proponent of what gets measured gets managed, and so I measure a lot of things in my life. And I keep wanting to come up with a scheme on how I could start measuring how much I annually spend in nature, and then just try to up it the next year. It's actually really silly and stupid because I probably should just spend more time in nature, but I really like being like, oh, I spent this much time in nature, and just constantly try to up it. But
I love that. It's a scale.
I like your measured and managed thing. And it's true because
Yeah.
you can't like fool yourself in that.
right,
when you
yeah,
measure.
exactly.
Yeah, I think that I love that, Mason. I think that anything that helps us to like cultivate the selves that we most want to be, you know?
Yeah.
Well, Lindsay, we've talked a lot about kind of advice for people who are just starting out on their learning about herbs path. And I'm wondering if you have any advice for the herbalist who feels like they'll never know enough? I'm asking for a friend.
Yeah, I think that the first thing that comes to mind is like, don't we just want to be humble, like, and recognize that like it's exciting to learn more? Like sometimes it's like we come from this place where it's like, well, I have to know everything. And it's like, ooh, isn't it more fun to like be a learner, like constantly curious? And
Mm.
I think that if you can just shift that perspective a little bit to being like, oh, well, like, no, it's fun to always be curious and gathering more information. I think that it's a really big thing in herbal education that I see when we were moving, like when students are trying to move into the practitioner role, which can be really hard, right? To be like, I know enough in this specific scenario to take people's money to give them a protocol that will help them in their healing journey, in their health journey. And that is definitely the space that I think that like the knowing enough is the biggest hurdle to jump over. And I think through advice that I have had for students throughout, all the mentorships that I've done with, our clinical training students and moving into clinical practice is just being upfront with the people and like knowing your scope of practice. So if you're just starting off, like you don't have to show up to a consult and be like, hey, I am going to fix you. You can show up and be like, here's what I have to offer. And like, I'm really excited to support you. And if at any point in time, like, I don't have the answers, either going to know where to look for those answers because that's a huge part, right? Like, we don't always have to know right off the tip of our tongue like what the answer is, but like doing the deep dive, knowing where to look, knowing how to research herbs and their safety profiles with maybe a new pharmaceutical that's coming into your clinic. Like you have to be able to do the research, but also you have to know when you're looking at something that's outside of your scope of practice and refer out and just being honest. But that doesn't mean that you don't have like things to offer, and it's just part of the journey of developing. So yeah, I think it's scary to like feel like you don't have enough and then trying to like don't know enough and then trying to like help people. But if you just hold on to that like earnestness of like wanting to help people and doing the best you can within your scope of practice, I think that you're in good shape.
Yeah, I love that. Just being like clear about your own scope of practice, and yeah, you don't have to front.
Yeah.
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 Makes me think of I'm pretty sure it's Rosemary Gladstar gave this advice. I've heard her say it before. It's just like when you start teaching, you just teach to people who know less than you do. Like it doesn't mean you know everything, right? So like typically people starting out, like they've been studying herbs for a year or whatever, they can probably teach herbs for colds and flu, for example, to people who don't know anything about taking herbs for colds and flu.
Yeah. I love that.
So Jim McDonald's keynote this year or last year at the Great Lakes Herb Fair was the virtues of what makes a good herbalist. Was that what the title was?
Yeah, I
Something
think
like
so.
that.
Yeah, okay.
It sounds like humility and curiosity would be two virtues. I don't know if he used those.
Yeah.
I know he had wonder as one of them, but kind of simple,
I love that.
yeah. Well, why don't we transition now that we're over an hour into the show, or about an hour into the show? Let's talk more about you briefly mentioned it earlier. This upcoming virtual herbal conference presented by the Herbal Academy. Why don't you tell us about the theme and anything special that the listener should know about?
Yeah. Okay. So, the Virtual Herbalism Conference is a free week-long conference that is put on by the Herbal Academy, and I have the honor of being the host, which means, yeah, I got to spend, we have 29 sessions with incredible herbalists. And so I got to spend all of that time with these amazing people, right? Across like all walks of our field. um, it was truly such an honor, and this was all curated to go into our week-long free event. So basically from February 15th to February 20th will be the period where we are airing these interviews with the herbalists. Last year was our first year doing it, and we had 80,000 people
Wow.
register. for the event, which was just such an incredible showing. And so the theme this year is wholeness. We're really trying to bring everyone together to cultivate this like a circle of incredible herbalists and audience members to really have that feeling that like we are all in this together in this like whole holistic way. So you guys, I got to hang out with Rosemary Gladstar. So
Cool.
Rosemary and I had a talk on Rosemary's top favorite herbs to save the world,
Ooh.
which was
Great
such a
topic.
fun conversation. At one point in time, Rosemary and I just had this like giggle fit, like where we just like someone giggles and then the other person giggles and you just can't stop giggling. Which I actually edited that out, but it was such just like such
Oh,
a
I want the uncut version.
Yeah.
I'll send it your way. It was just such a joy to spend time with her. And so she's our first session. So I definitely recommend everyone, I got to ask her like one plant for hope, one plant for courage, one
Mhm.
plant for connection. And of course, we all want to hear her answers to those. I got to interview Guido Masé, who is one of my favorite herbal teachers because he goes into like it's like deep philosophy of like existential existence. If you've not heard Guido wax poetic on like the topics that interest him, um, it is one of the most beautiful things. So he's talking about tonic plants for tonic herbs for the Anthropocene. So that's not the full title, but it's basically him talking about like why tonic herbs are the answer to this era. Or yeah, so good. I interviewed Kat Maier on energetic herbalism. I had my dear friend Ruthie Colley on to do folktale and herbal folklore and fairy tales.
Oh, fun.
So fun. Yeah, Adriana I. Alice. I always enjoy her. She's so intelligent and also like has like such a deep connection to the plants. Same with Asia Suler, who's also on talking about green whispers and wisdom from the plant world. So many incredible herbalists, and what a joy and honor it was and is to have spent this time with these folks. And you can too by joining the conference. So yeah, we have again the event is free. So we're here to talk about herbal education together. And I think that the fact that we were able to cultivate this incredible gathering of herbal minds and truly offer it for free for this week-long period is just, I feel a real gift to the community. So yeah, definitely hope to see you all there. And yeah, it's February 15th is when our opening ceremony is.
Sweet. Can I
Yeah.
ask you kind of like a behind the scenes question?
Oh, sure.
So I'm just thinking like I interview like roughly 50 people a year, but I do that like in the course of a year. What is
Yeah.
that like for you? Like you're interviewing like almost 30 herbalists to then like release it within 1 week. And I remember speaking to
Yeah.
you before this event ever happened a couple of years
Yeah.
ago. And just so anyway, I'm just kind of curious about your journey with that and what that's like for you to be hosting and yeah, just doing all those interviews.
Yeah. I have been an herbal educator for a long time, right? And so this is the way that I have curated like my public speaking side, right? Where like as teachers, we have to show up and we have to have words. I had never done an interview like this before last year. So I do remember Rosalee and I talking and me being like, Rosalee, like, how do you do it? Like, give me some tips. Because you're such an excellent podcaster and you did give me some
Hey.
tips. And you gave me some tips but I felt like it was natural because like it's also just cultivating that joy, right? Like that joy of connection, connecting to the people and to hearing their stories and be genuinely interested in what they have to say. And it
That's it
really
right there.
came, yeah, it just came naturally. Um, and we're doing, the interviews are so yeah, 29 sessions, and then we have the opening and closing ceremony, so over 30 sessions total. And yeah, it just was, like I would have a week's map of like, okay, today's David Winston, tomorrow's Sajah Popham, here's Abril Dane. Yeah, and I do the video editing myself, and that makes it a little easier on my end because I feel like you get to like go back through and yeah. And yeah, it's a joy, truly. It was a joy, and the the conference itself, though they're not live, like it would be impossible for us to have done 30 sessions
Right.
live, right, in
Right.
1 week. Like that to me just wouldn't be possible. But being able to do them pre-recorded over these like last couple of months, and developing them in, we then have like a live chat that allows us to create connection in the community that's like watching the webinars live. So yeah.
I hate to throw myself under the bus, but I keep noticing that there's like 39 speakers. I'm curious if there's supposed to be 40 and I was the one that had to cancel. Is that what happened?
No,
Okay.
we filled in your slot. So
Okay.
39 speakers, and that's actually a really so we have the interviews are mostly me with one other herbalist.
Hmm.
But then every day, so we do 6 sessions a day, and it's every 2 hours for Monday through Friday. Every 2 hours, there will be a session. The 1 o'clock sessions are all panel discussions. And so with those, we cultivated panels to discuss various topics. So there's 3 herbalists plus me as the host. So that's, yeah, Mason, maybe next year. I would
I
love
would
to
love
have
that.
you if you get the space in your life to be a part of it. But so the panels though are interesting because we get to talk about like specific topics from a broad range of perspectives. So we have one panel on cultivating plants, not, I'm sorry, on harvesting
Hmm.
plants, whether they're cultivated or wildcrafted. Like, what are the benefits of wildcrafting? What are the benefits of cultivated herbs? And like having that discussion of like, well, are the wildcrafted herbs better because they're out in the world, having like the stressors placed upon them that are naturally incurred in the wild versus cultivated plants and like da 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 da. So we had Logan Keister, Sarah Wu, and Heather Wood Buzzard in that one. So that'll be our first one on Monday, and it's a really great talk. Obviously, that's like a great group of herbalists. So yeah. I also didn't talk about I had a session with Stephen Yeager,
Oh,
who,
no way.
yeah, so
Nice.
I know you all are buds, Mason, and
Mhm.
I think he is just such a joy.
Yeah, totally. What do you
Yeah.
guys talk about? GMPs or something or?
Yeah, we talked about like everything herbalists need to know about um manufacturing like herbs in commerce, basically.
Oh, that's an
Cool.
important topic. Yeah, and
Yeah.
he's an expert, so
Yeah.
yeah, people are going to get a lot of value out of that.
Yeah, for sure. So it's gonna be a great conference. Yeah, you all can check it out. Virtual Herbalism Conference. I highly recommend, all of the topics that I've mentioned so far. But yeah, any session that you join will be really knowledgeable and will help round out that herbal education we've been talking about today.
And of course, if you're listening on the podcast, links to the Virtual Herbalism Conference will be in the show notes. If you're watching on YouTube, it'll be in the description. So check that out there. And do you want to wrap this up with the final question?
I do. Thanks for letting me crash
Of
today,
course,
by the
yeah.
way.
That was a lot
It's been
of fun.
fun. It's cool to hang out with you, Lindsey.
You guys,
We
oh
had
my
this idea
goodness.
at like 10 p.m. last night. Mason's like, you should just come. Like, you should just come. Then I had, it's like, yeah, I want to crash. So, of course, I
Oh
want
my
to hang out with
goodness.
you. Yeah, this has been great, Lindsey.
Oh, thank you. I love that you popped in, Rosalee. What a
Well, before we go, I'd love to ask if you just have any closing thoughts to share with students, herbalists, or folks who are just maybe on the beginning of their plant path and anything you'd like to impart for them.
Yeah, I think I would kind of wrap it up like stay curious,
Mm.
find your joy with the plants and recognize that like we all need to center the plants in this journey.
Mm, so
Beautiful.
true. Yeah.
This was so much fun, Lindsay. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you guys. I was so surprised, Rosalie. I'm so glad you joined us. Mason, thank you so much for having me on. It's been such a pleasure to be here with you all.
Always.
Always.
Yeah, and yeah, come on our combined show here when we visit you next. The Herbalist After Hours. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, let's go to North Carolina.
Yeah, heck yeah. Well, she's in Virginia now.
Oh, Virginia.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
yeah.
said North Carolina. Got it.
I know. That's my bad.
Virginia.
Sweet. Oh, well, that's going to wrap it up for today's episode of the Herbalist Hour, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye, everybody. Thanks so much for watching today's episode of the Herbalist Hour. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want more great herbal content, be sure to subscribe to our Herbalist YouTube channel. If you enjoy these Herbalist Hour episodes and you'd like to join us live, you can do so by becoming an Herbalist Schoolhouse member. Learn more at herbalist.com/schoolhouse. And if you want to get your first 30 days for free, use coupon code YouTube30 at checkout. So our Herbalist Schoolhouse members get access to exclusive video classes, monographs, and a lot more herbal community discounts, along with joining these live Herbalist Hour interviews. So one more time, herbalist.com/schoolhouse. Enter coupon code YouTube30 at checkout to get your first 30 days for free. All right, we'll see you in the next episode, and take care.